So welcome everyone. Of course, as you know, we are gathered together today. Well, really started yesterday, but gathered today to greet one another and to better know this community with whom we will be walking through and working through the experience of the 21st United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous issues. And while we're together today, we will have a little bit of time to just review some of the important details of the forum and how we can participate. But we won't spend too much time on that because really our priority is to know one another and our point of entry or our angle of approach to the concept, the many issues that are related to the rights of Indigenous people, and what passion and what experience it is that we're each bringing to this week and a half of, or 2 weeks of conversation. And so I would like to begin today by inviting an opening blessing, an opening prayer in the form of a song from Erilede Dominguez, who we have joining with us from the Amazon. So, oh, and she's just reconnecting to sound now, so she'll need a minute. Erilede, I hope you're able to hear us, and we are ready to hear your song of blessing when you're ready. And perhaps before we begin, actually, I'll share a translation of the text for this blessing, which for those of us who don't know the original tongue will benefit from hearing the words ahead of time. So our opening prayer today will be a prayer with the intent to thank God and those who are receiving us, receiving one another in community today. And at the beginning, the prayer says, "As I'm here in the union, bringing my voice for the prayer for the poor and the humble, that God's will may touch the heart of those outside our community, and so as to look for us, so that we can have peace of mind." Or in other words, we pray that God's will touch the heart of those outside our community as the authorities, so that they can look for us and help us in a way so that we can have peace of mind. And I think, Erilede, if you're ready to begin and to open our session today with your blessing, we are ready.
Sim, sim. Pronto. Bom dia a todos.
So, good morning, everyone.
Pode começar, então?
May I start?
Ok. Eu sou a Erilede, sou do povo Guarani.
Eu sou Erilede. I am Erilede, and
esse canto, que eu vou cantar agora em agradecimento pela recepção.
and this song that I'm gonna sing right now, it's a song of thanking, to give thanks to the Lord. for all what he is giving us and in favor of all Brazilian. And it's also a song to strengthen our heart. And also it's teaching us how we can follow the way of God in the truth and in the peace of spirit.
We're doing this prayer today in the name of my people, asking for help, asking for compassion, and asking for that the currently resident government may look for us and help us so we can have a peaceful life.
Bom, oração adiapô. Como é que eu te chamo? Ai, esqueci agora. Oração adiapô. Derehe apero ikuime. Ome orehangpe aguapu. Derehe ave oronimbuatu. Ai pota shere korerova. Eme shagapu aguapu. Hako angaronyo boatu. Benendive anko anga shaoroime. É isso, é pequeno, é curto, que se diz tudo, tanto em agradecimento a
So
Deus.
this song is actually a short one, but it's saying a lot. So I'm wishing the same for all of you. I hope that this song may be infiltrated in your hearts and it will direct our vision to the indigenous people.
It says everything. We thank God and those here today, those who have received.
É isso.
Thank you very much, Arilete, for delivering this blessing to begin our time together today. And as you say, it's very short, but it has a lot of heart and it's elegant in its simplicity. So thank you for allowing this to be our starting place as we gather
Sim, eu que
together.
agradeço.
And now I'll continue on with a very short overview to help remind us all of some of the technical aspects of this forum that we are embarking on together. So, of course, welcome the 21st UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. If this is your first time or if you're coming from a long time without being part of the forum, then it may be helpful to recall what the forum is and why it exists, what is its purpose. So the Forum on Indigenous Issues is an annual gathering of 2 weeks at United Nations headquarters in New York, or at least whenever it happens in person. It didn't happen because of the pandemic for some time and continues to be virtual now. But this forum is designated for the purpose of highlighting and addressing all issues that are faced specifically and uniquely by Indigenous, tribal, and pastoral peoples. And typically, the conversations within the forum focus on issues that are related to these populations' economic and social development, or in other words, inequalities that are faced by these groups of people. They focus on the preservation of and respect for cultures, on environmental health, and of course, on human rights. And more specifically, the objective of the forum is to provide expert advice and recommendations on Indigenous issues to the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. And so essentially, it's to deliver the insights, wisdom, and expertise of Indigenous communities to the leaders within the United Nations system, so that they can better serve both the population of Indigenous peoples, but also better understand and operate from the wisdom that really serves all people in all parts of the world. Another objective is to raise awareness and to promote the integration and coordination of activities related to Indigenous issues within the UN system. Additionally, to prepare and disseminate information on the issues being faced by Indigenous peoples, and to promote respect and full application of all of the provisions that we can find in a very important document of the United Nations called the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We'll share this, all these slides afterwards, so if you would like to revisit or see for the first time this declaration, there will be a link there. I very much encourage you to take a look at how the United Nations has agreed to support the rights of Indigenous peoples as enshrined in that document. And specifically this year is the 21st Permanent Forum, or UNPFII 21 for short. And like each year, we have a specific theme as our focus for this year's forum. And that is the relationship between Indigenous peoples and the operations of business in the world. And specifically, we are looking at the impacts of business practices or operations on the autonomy of Indigenous peoples. And we're looking specifically at businesses' compliance with their obligations to respect human rights principle of due diligence, which includes, very importantly, the requirement that businesses obtain free, prior, and informed consent from Indigenous peoples who will be affected by any project or process or new business endeavor that they want to undertake as part of their business. They're required to have an open consultation process through which they not only hear the concerns of Indigenous peoples who will be affected, but they're also required to proceed or not in order to respond to what they hear in those consultations. It's not meant to simply be an act put on for show or to check a box in their requirements, but it's meant to actually inform their decision making. So we are taking that as our theme and our focus for this year's forum. And a bit of logistical information that's helpful to us. Of course, we began with the forum yesterday. We continue through next Friday, the 6th of May. And we can find all of the proceedings of the forum online, while many of them are happening in person at the United Nations headquarters. And we can watch all of the open official meetings on United Nations Web TV. And if you want to see specifically which programs or discussions are happening at what time, we have links here that can take you to the official program, the official schedule of government and Indigenous group meetings within the United Nations. And we also have a link to a list of side events, which are mostly events that are sponsored by non-governmental organizations and perhaps other Indigenous groups kind of outside the formal program of the forum that's organized by the UN Secretariat. So those are both useful lists or agendas for the program that's being offered these 2 weeks. And of course, there are many side events there that are sponsored by members of our own community of Catholic religious NGOs. So I definitely encourage everyone, if you haven't yet, to be sure that you take a look at that list of side events.
Upside.
And another important way that you're able to be engaged actively, even though the forum is online and you may not have the opportunity that we would like to have conversations with one another or perhaps with government leaders, is to be engaged with the process on social media. And you don't need to be an expert in communications or social media to attempt this, because there are a few really specific and simple tricks to be involved and to contribute to this very useful and powerful platform for conversation. And so as a starting place, you may try following some of the accounts that are named here on social media if you have not already. And you can see we suggest, of course, following JCoR itself on Facebook or Twitter. We also have a list of our coalition members' social media accounts, which you might be interested in following. You can follow the UN's account for the Permanent Forum itself on Facebook or Twitter. There's also a Facebook page for the Committee of Non-Governmental Organizations that focuses on the rights of Indigenous peoples. So you may be interested in connecting with them during this time. And if you are a member of a congregation, then you'll probably want to be sure that you follow their UN NGO account on social media if they have one. And depending on which territory or which government's territory you are in yourself, you may also be interested in looking up the official government account that is most directly connected to your location. And there are a couple ways that you can help to kind of organize and collect your messages in the same corner of the internet as other people who are following the Permanent Forum. And you can do that by using some of the official or common hashtags that help to bundle all of these messages on the same topic together on Twitter. And also on Facebook. You can add hashtags on either place. And so here we have the hashtags that we recommend to help link up your messages with those of other people who are also talking about the Permanent Forum. And just to quickly remind you of some of the offerings, some of the opportunities that are being put together by members of our community of NGOs. We have one this afternoon at 1:30 New York time on mining in Indigenous territories in the Amazon, a reality that affects autonomy, violation of human rights, and the role of companies and states. Tomorrow, we have a North-South gathering of young traditional women. And that will be a group of women from both the northern and southern parts of the world, sharing how they are transmitting their culture and language to the next generation. Also tomorrow, from human rights due diligence to corporate accountability, ensuring the protection of the rights of Indigenous peoples. And this will feature the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment, who will be joined by legal and human rights experts and Indigenous human rights defenders from Guatemala and the Solomon Islands. And on the 28th, the self-determination of Indigenous peoples in the Amazon, reports from the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights and the Pan-Amazonian Ecclesial Network, REPAM. And in the second week, we recommend an event for Indigenous peoples preserving home, culture, and community as human rights, and challenging government intrusion into the lives of Indigenous women, rectifying violations of free, prior, and informed consent. And I want to make a special invitation to an event being sponsored by this coalition happening in the second week on May 4th, starting at 12:30 in the afternoon, New York time. And this will be an open space for the sharing of specific ministries and ministry projects that support the rights of Indigenous, tribal, or pastoral peoples in some way or other. And of course, that's open both to members of religious congregations who are not Indigenous, but who are serving an Indigenous group in some way with their work. And of course, it is also open to projects of members within Indigenous communities who are working towards the better realization and protection of their own rights. And so if you are interested in attending, there's a link to register here. And also if you think that you might like to share something, to present a project of your own, there is one of the questions in the form to register will invite you to indicate that you're interested in speaking so that we can sort of have a good grasp ahead of time on how many people will be sharing. And finally, after that, there will also be an event on Indigenous women standing together. We also have put together, for those who are not great lovers of social media and who might like some assistance in creating messages that they can post on Twitter or on Facebook. We have a number of messages that you might like to just copy and paste and use and share with your own networks. You're welcome to take this exact text if you wish. That is no problem at all. Although it's also encouraged and helpful if you see others in the coalition who are posting things that you want to support. It's very helpful to share their posts and interact with their posts as well. So we've got a couple slides of suggested messages for you. And again, we'll share these afterwards, so we don't have to spend time going through all the exact text now. And so with that, I don't want to spend any more time going through technical aspects because I want to dedicate most of our time today to being with and getting to know one another a little bit more. So I will invite each of us to take a minute or so to introduce ourselves by sharing, of course, our names, the group through which the group we're representing, or the group through which we come to participate in a UN process, to say where in the world we are, and to share in a few words why we feel a passionate connection to the rights of Indigenous peoples, or why it is that we are participating actively in this permanent forum Why is it important to us? How does it connect to our personal work or to perhaps the work of our congregation or another group? And since we do have a few delegates with us, from the forum, who are representing Indigenous communities from the Amazon, I would like to invite them to speak first. And so I would like to go first, if I can, to the person who offered our beautiful opening today, Erelede. If you could, Erelede, we invite you to share more with us about your community, where you are in the world, and something about the concerns and priorities that you are bringing to the forum this year.
Carlos, Gabriel, help Erelede to just talk.
I just sent you.
Oh, beautiful. And then Flavio after that.
Okay.
Thank you.
É bonito de ouvir isso. Eu sou
I was really glad to listen to all of this.
Eu vou dizer que
I will say that
não sou apaixonada, né? Mas
I'm not passionate by this, but
temos muito orgulho de ser povo,
I have to say that we are really happy and proud to be these people.
o peso da
And I will be happier to try to carry this weight with all the people that doesn't have any voice and to be the voice of those voiceless. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to speak on behalf of the indigenous people.
não é fácil.
I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy that we can go out of our family, of our homeland. I have a grandmother of 84 years old. She's working so hard and she's always hoping to see our land emancipated and to see a lot of realization and to see a lot of emancipation of women. And we hope also may the government may look to indigenous people in a different way and to see that actually we are the indigenous people, we depend a lot on nature and we depend a lot on all what is coming from the land itself. Actually, nowadays, as the indigenous people, we are coming from south, we are so related to these natural things. We like a lot to give glory to the nature, to God, and we are so related one to another. I learned all of the things since my childhood. And I feel that every day is passing. It's very sad because we can see our youth losing their life for just a cause of a lack of attention to the government, to us. Because actually we are suffering a lot. We are usually requesting our rights. And today, we are taking back these points and we would like to be interested one more time in calling the attention of the government to us. And I'm saying that with the lack of attention, we are losing a lot of our people and we are losing a lot of blood. especially in my zone of the South. We are suffering a lot from so many circumstances. And actually, we have to transmit our suffering to the United Nations. Maybe they can give another look to Brazil. Maybe they can give another attention to the indigenous people. And I'm calling upon the Brazilian government so that we can enjoy peace, we can enjoy a normal life, actually as indigenous people, without trying to change us.
As I stated before, my name is a relative from the Guarani Kaiowá people in Brazil. We have a lot of pride in being an indigenous, to be able to carry the heavy weight of being part of my people and the opportunity to speak about my people.
Why are you doing it twice?
It's not easy to leave my community, especially my grandpa, who is a leader, and who is 104 years old and has the hope to see the land granted by the state while he's still alive. I share his dreams to see our land as granted by the Brazilian state, as we depend on the land to survive, to have our traditional ways of life. With the current government, we have been attacked, especially by the agribusiness, and we have been facing violations of our rights every day. And all that, unfortunately, leads to the youth taking a path of suicide, as they have no further way to live or no perspective of life. Every day, they lose their lives due to the inaction of the government. Or we are currently working towards the reoccupation of our regional space, but the government only attacks us to return the lands to the farmers. The government only wishes our death, and we are one of the communities that most suffers the most in Brazil. We ask that.
Carlos?
Yes?
Sorry, we do have simultaneous interpretation.
Oh, really?
Between Portuguese.
They told me to do it.
Sorry, we just must have had a
Okay.
miscommunication, but I do thank
No problem.
you. Very
Okay.
grateful. And now, if we could also hear from Flavia.
Olá, bom dia. Me escutam?
Yes, good morning. Are you listening?
Yes, we hear you, Flavia.
Muito obrigado. Então, eu sou o Flávio, sou do...
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Flavio. I'm from the Missionary Indigenous Council, and this is related to the Catholic Church. And actually, we have been making more than 50 years in Brazil, and we are working together, maybe with a chain of 780 indigenous people, and we are organizing a lot of regional workshops. Maybe we have more than 40 to 50 local groups. Our work during the permanent forum has been sustaining a lot the indigenous people and representing us in front of the United Nations. There is some mechanism that we are trying to follow, the mechanism of experts, and I remember since 2014, we have been granted the participation of indigenous people to this forum and parallel events. And as Eri Lady has presented us, she is from the South, and I'm really appreciating her people. And actually, we are dividing this geographical region in Brazil with Paraguay, for example. And I can say that our people and maybe the one of Paraguay are testimonying the worst situation. There is people that are living in camps all over the time, and they're suffering, and all of us were suffering from violence, and sometimes among them, if because of the bad circumstances, there is a lot of killing, a lot of homicides, a lot of bad circumstances they are living. And I can say that we are witnessing a higher number of assassinated people and a lot of attacks against us, attacks against people, against our lands. And since 2003 till now, I have to say that every year, there is one of our leaders that are killed. And there is another information very important that it's concerning youth. As Erilege mentioned, a lot of suicides are committing among youth, maybe because of frustration, because of violence, because of the bad circumstances. And in the past 16 years, you cannot imagine the level of homicides, of suicide that have been committed. And now we are trying to limit a little bit these cases. We have new cases also that we have to face. But as I mentioned, the circumstances are very hard. Sometimes the youth are doing this because they don't have any perspectives. They don't have family, they don't have land, they don't have any reason for living. And when they lose the perspective of life, they kill themselves, they commit suicide. I have even photos proving what I'm saying. And especially among youth, the situation became horrible. I have to say, in Kaiwa, for example, we have a high level of suicides. And for Kaiwa, and even for us, Christians, the verb or the word, the verb became flesh. So for youth, the word is very important. And usually they're listening to negative words. So they took the word and they killed themselves. These situations are very hard for us, especially we Christians. So for us, the most emergent work that we have to elaborate is for youth. We have to get new initiatives. We have to get new perspective, how to encourage youth, how to let them think that everything is possible. It's possible to dream. It's possible to think for the future. It's possible to have hope. This is possible because they lost hope, actually. And I agree with Eri ladies that we have to combine efforts in order to face all of these challenges. We have to organize ourselves as groups to stop these negative aspects, and we have to think on the future of this youth. Maybe we have to organize a combination of activities between our youth and another groups. And I think these are the challenges that we are facing, and this is our mission, to face all of this and to try to stop it, actually. Thank you so much. Thank you. Maybe I spoke a lot. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Flavio. You did not speak too much. We are very happy to hear from you and to hear your perspective. And indeed, your words and the words of Erilete, your experience are the heart, are the center of this forum and the reason that we're gathered. So thank you very much for your personal sharing of both the grief and the hope that you bring to this conversation and to the path that we're walking together to a better world for Indigenous peoples and for all peoples. And I would now like to take time to call upon each of us to share an introduction and a small personal reflection of maybe, a little over, a minute, no more than 2 minutes per person, to share something about yourself and why it is that you are participating in this permanent forum on Indigenous issues. And I will lead the way and offer an example. So I will say for myself, my name is Teresa Blumenstein. I am here as the coordinator of the Justice Coalition of Religious, or one of the coordinators, and one who is working internationally to connect our work in different regions and to connect the regions with the United Nations. And on a personal level, I have tremendous admiration for the spirituality of Indigenous peoples, and particularly its connections to the ecology of the world, to look upon every phenomenon in nature as a form of revelation and to seek the wisdom that's present there. It's been a personal pursuit of mine for some time now to study and explore this form of spirituality, and it has greatly enriched my understanding of the world and my passion to help us to live in a more sustainable and respectful way in mutuality with the natural world and all of her peoples. And I would now like to go on to someone else to introduce themselves. So perhaps could we go to Henry Ramirez? Henry?
Yes. Hello.
Go ahead,
My
Henry.
connection is not very good today. I don't hear the question. Teresa, you can repeat?
Yes.
Hello.
Introduce yourself,
Hello.
which group you come from, and where
Hello.
you held, and also your personal connection or passion for Indigenous issues.
Sorry, I not hear because my connection is not good today.
Okay, I will type it and we'll go to someone else for a moment. So could I ask Jane Castillo? Could you share and introduce yourself, Jane?
Yes, it's better.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm Jane or Mary Jane Castillo, and I represent the Medical Mission Sisters of the United Nations. Personally, I became interested with the life of Indigenous people since the early stage of my formation. I lived with the community of our sisters whose mission area is mostly composed of Indigenous peoples. And first, I learned the simplicity of life. And since then, I got interested to know more about them. And as much as possible, I requested for mission assignment with the Indigenous peoples. And my last mission assignment before I became the representative was with the indigenous peoples in Bukidnon, that's in southern part of the Philippines. And you know, like Teresa, I was also attracted and have been in awe of the kind of life that they live, their spirituality. And when we talk about healing of people and planet, it's the indigenous people that teaches us a lot about it in depth, and not just with their words, but how they live it. And so I experienced so much the three basic principles of the ecology: interrelatedness, interconnectedness, and interdependence. Um, so like, even if our mission expression is diverse, but I can say that I have more affiliation or interest with the indigenous peoples. Yesterday, I was happy to hear the traditional welcome celebration of the IP that spoke about how that we need to call into mind the different creatures, different creations that God has intended to us. And I thank our indigenous peoples here. Thank you again for your presence and for the courage to come here to the United States and live in your family. And I pray for and hope for a fruitful forum, 21st forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And Henry, could you go next?
Okay. Okay, I changed my connection internet. It's better now. My name is Henry. I am a Claretian missionary. I am representative at the Proclade International at the UN. We participate in the mining work group in the Amazon subcommittee with the other NGO, religious NGO. In our plan, we have the indigenous people is an focus area for us, and then in my personal issue is always work accompanied with the communities, indigenous community. And today I invite you participate the side event at 1:30 p.m. about indigenous peoples, mining, and human rights. Thank you for this opportunity. Okay, so.
Thank you, Henry. And next, could we go to Patricia Flattery?
Good morning, everyone from the Bronx. I am Patricia Flattery. I represent the Sisters of the Congregation of Notre Dame of Montreal at the United Nations. And in reflecting on your question, Teresa, I think this experience, which is really my first with the Permanent Forum, is a call to appreciation and admiration for where my congregation has or is ministering with Indigenous people. For 40 years, we were present in Oglala, South Dakota, with the Lakota Sioux in the field of education in partnership with the Jesuits. A few of our sisters very quietly and behind the scenes minister with First Nations people in very remote areas of Quebec. And my own appreciation in visits to Guatemala are a few of our sisters who are of Mayan descent and who continue to work with the Mayan people, again, in remote areas of Guatemala. And kind of ironically, in Brooklyn, New York, one of our sisters, Melba, who is Honduran, ministers with the Garifuna people, a large population of which are in a parish in Brooklyn. So it just brings me great delight to appreciate the simple but varied ways in which we are ministering. And last night I participated in the Canadian mission to the United Nations side event in the area of finance. And I was really so delighted at the professionalism and the strength of the presentations of First Nations people in Canada who are taking charge of their lives and who want to be equal partners in First Nation events there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. And could we go next to Paul Rahmat?
Thank you, Teresa. Good morning. I am Paul Rahmat, representing Vivat International. I belong to Divine Word Missionary, Verbo Divino. I come from Indonesia. And before I came here to the United States, I used to work with the indigenous peoples, Dayak people in Kalimantan. We accompany them to fight for their land and forest taken over by the corporations, by the minings and palm oil plantations. So we do advocacy for their rights on the land and the forest. And now we, Vivat International, work with the indigenous community and Vivat members in Paraguay, especially the Apa Guarani community in Paraguay, who are struggling with their lands affected by the corporation, agribusiness corporation in Paraguay, and some of them become homeless because their territory are taken over by the corporations. And in March last month, they raised their consent to Human Rights Council in Geneva to Vivat. And in this 21st session of Indigenous People Forum, we raised this issue in one of our side events on May 3rd. So we are trying to raise the concern of our Guarani community from Paraguay to events, both in Geneva and here in New York. And some of members also in the Philippines work with the indigenous people to planting bamboos, reforestation or conservation of the land. And of course, in Brazil, some of missionaries or members work with the Amazonian people to raise and to defend their rights of indigenous people on the lands, forests, and borders. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. And could we go next to Dusty Farnan?
Good morning, everyone. I'm representing the Dominican Leadership Conference here at the UN and hosting our friends from Amazon. And just delighted that we could have an opportunity to meet each other and to greet each other, in hopes that this will be a profitable week and next week as well for our people in the Amazon. And hopefully we will know how to advocate better as a result of their visit here. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Dusty, for all of the preparations you've made for today. And could we also hear from Carlos Gabriel?
Hi, yeah. I've been helping Simi for a while already with translation and other stuff at the forum 2019, 2021, and this year again. So again, sorry, I had no idea that we had simultaneous translation. They told me, oh, we might need translation, so I just jumped at the right team. I'm sorry. And yeah, that's it. I'm here to help whenever I can and however I can.
Oh, Carlos, your volunteerism and willingness to contribute are a gift. So thank you. No, please don't apologize. We're glad that you could be with us. And could I go next to Seamus Finn? Seamus, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm actually still with you, just trying to find the right buttons here.
I understand. I know how that goes. When you're ready.
Just a quick hello to everybody. I'm Sheila Smith. I'm with the Missionary Oblates. I'm in Washington, D.C. and direct the JPIC office here. And we already have Dan LeBlanc up there at the UN's. But the UN Permanent Forum is special in our world because I think I was at the first one for back a while ago now with some colleagues from Bangladesh. And we connect with a number of indigenous groups in that are in the orbit of the congregation in Bangladesh, Guatemala, Peru, Brazil. Our fellows in Brazil just moved up further up one of the tributaries of the Amazon to Araka recently. So lots of connections. And then one last thing, we do also quite a bit of work with building livelihood, sustainability, and entrepreneurship with indigenous groups. That's mostly organized by them. We just facilitate some of the conversations and try and make some connections that make it a little easier. So thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you, Seamus, and great to meet you. Thank you for being here. And now could we go to Sheila Smith?
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, everybody. I'm Sheila Smith, and I'm a religious of the Sacred Heart. I'm the UN representative for our international congregation, and I'm located right now in Ottawa, Canada. My connection with Indigenous people begins with the fact that I live in Algonquin territory, unceded Algonquin territory, and have lived and grown up here. My involvement at the UN with Indigenous grandmothers dates back a couple of years. I brought a couple of delegations to the UN of grandmothers who I work with here in Canada, and their work is mainly against the sexual exploitation of women and girls in their communities. And I believe that some of them actually presented with some of the delegates who are present here today. I think we've done some workshops together in the past. And currently, I'm involved with the ongoing process of truth and reconciliation in Canada, which was led by the survivors of residential schools here in Canada. And this week I'm going to be on a retreat with some Indigenous elders. So we will be praying for the forum. We begin on Wednesday, so we'll remember each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And I think everyone has had an opportunity to introduce themselves. So in the spirit of exactly as Sheila was mentioning, in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, and given especially the nature of our connection as a community of organizations that represent communities of Catholic congregations, I also want to take a moment of silence for acknowledgement and for the seeking of forgiveness of historical injuries to Indigenous communities in many parts of the world who have been directly injured, sometimes in deep, irreversible ways, sometimes in violent ways, by the teaching or influence of Catholic institutions, be they our major structure as a whole or individual institutions. So I just would invite us all to take a moment or a minute of silence in acknowledgement of that history, and also as a way of recommitting ourselves to the healing process that it remains necessary to this day in response to that history and to the ongoing harm that is created by that history. So we'll just take a moment to be quiet together. Thank you for your silence and your united attention to that memory and to that ongoing reality. And if anyone would like more information about specific history of relationship with the Catholic Church and Indigenous peoples, a good place that you might begin is by doing some research about the doctrine of discovery. So if that phrase is not familiar to you, I invite you to do some research about that, to begin to understand some of the story of our relationship. And now I would like to invite us into a closing prayer, or rather, in a sense, it's a closing greeting. And this comes from the Thanksgiving address of the Haudenosaunee people, who are the originators in this region of the world where the United Nations is present. And I'll invite us, perhaps we can each, there are several sections to it, so maybe I can invite someone to speak in each of the sections. And then in between each part, there is a response for all of us. And the response is, now our minds are one. And that will be on the screen, so you'll be able to have a written reminder. Get that visual for us. And I'll read the first one and then invite others to come in to read the following sections. So from the Haudenosaunee people and their greetings to the natural world, which we'll bring to greet the world gathered at the permanent forum these weeks. First, greetings to the people. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. And we'll say together, now our minds are one. Could someone offer the next greeting?
Greetings to our Earth Mother. We are all thankful to our Mother, the Earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our Mother, we send greetings and thanks.
And we say together, now our minds are one.
We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us with strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms: waterfalls and rain, mists and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the Spirit of water.
And with this greeting, we say, now our minds
are one.
We greet the plants. Now we turn toward the vast fields of plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. The life forms. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and look forward to seeing plant life for many generations to come.
And in this greeting to the plants, we say, now our minds are
one. Greetings to the four winds. We are all thankful to the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help us to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bringing us messages and giving us strength. With one mind, we send our greetings and thanks to the four winds.
And in this gratitude, we say, now our minds are one.
Are one.
Greetings to the stars. We give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them in the night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bringing dew to the gardens and growing things. When we travel at night, they guide us home. With our minds gathered together as one, we send greetings and thanks to the stars.
Together we say, now our minds
are one.
And finally, we send our greetings to the Creator. Now we turn our thoughts to the Creator or Great Spirit and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on this Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. And through this gratitude, we are able to say,
now
our minds
are one.
And so with this connection of our minds, and I hope also a connection of our hearts, of our spirit, of our intention to see a world that respects the rights of Indigenous peoples, and in that way also learns to respect the rights of all peoples and of the earth with whom we are in community. Let us embark together on this journey of the 21st Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. And let us hold each other in prayer and in spirit as we listen, as we learn, as we share our experiences, and as we continue down the path to a more just world. I thank you all for being here and for continuing to sustain this community. And I wish you all the best for your experience in the forum. I hope to see you along the way.
Thank you.
Teresa.